Welcome to the Drum Shuffle, a podcast offering insights, perspectives, and conversations for drummers. I'm your host, Jamie Eads. Hey, how's it going out there, everybody? Welcome to the Drum Shuffle. Jamie Eads joining you as always. This is episode 61. Hope everybody's having a fantastic week out there. I am struggling through some massive computer issues this week, so if the show sounds a little funky, please forgive us. Got a great episode for you. I'm going to be joined by the wonderful Dan Aran in just a moment to talk all about his new recording called New York Family, so please stay tuned after this message from our sponsor, Los Cabos Drumsticks. The best kept secret for drummers is finally out. Los Cabos Drumsticks may look like the sticks you grew up with, but these are not your father's drumsticks. Los Cabos Drumsticks is Canada's #1 drumstick brand, and they are coming to a retailer near you. With operations in over 28 countries worldwide, thousands of drummers have already discovered the Los Cabos difference. Using FSC certified wood from Canada and the US, Los Cabos make the finest quality drumsticks, percussion tools, and accessories on the market. The best news, Los Cabos Drumsticks offers you a ton of choice. They have 22 individual drumstick models and 14 percussion tools, many of which are available in 3 different wood types: maple, white hickory, and red hickory. Red hickory comes from the center or heart of the hickory tree and has been independently proven to be both stronger and more elastic than white hickory without adding a lot of weight. While most drumstick manufacturers have shunned red hickory, Los Cabos Drumsticks has embraced it, becoming the only established stick brand in the world to offer a full line of red hickory drumsticks. To learn more about Los Cabos Drumsticks, visit them online at loscabosdrumsticks.com, follow them on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, and don't forget to ask for Los Cabos Drumsticks at your favorite retailer. Dare to be different. Join the Red Hickory Revolution with Los Cabos Drumsticks. All right, guys and girls, as I mentioned, I'm about to be joined by a great drummer up in New York City by the name of Dan Aran. Dan is originally from Israel and has been in New York for quite some time now, just been doing tons and tons of great work, monster jazz player. And I was really excited to have him on because he has a new album out called New York Family that is just absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the best jazz records that I have heard so far in 2019. So I was really excited to have him on the show. So please help me welcome to the Drum Shuffle, Dan Aran. Good afternoon, Dan. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, no, thank you for taking time. We really do appreciate it. Dan, just so you know, I mean, we typically try to go back to the very beginning, and I think your story is really cool and unique. Tell our listeners where you're from and how you first got into music and drumming.
Well, I'm from Jerusalem, Israel, in the Middle East. And my first exposure to good music is, of course, my parents. And I grew up with my mother. And we always had, she always had pretty great records in the house, vinyls. She used to listen to a lot of classical music and some early jazz, sort of randomly, because we did live in the Middle East. But she had a Fats Waller records. And then she had some Stevie Wonders.
Oh, cool.
And I think those first few records that I was exposed to really influenced me. And a bit later on, I guess when I was about 11 or 12, unfortunately, I don't have a romantic story about that because I don't know why I started playing drums, but I wanted to play drums. And I asked my mom if I could get drum lessons. And she said, yes, but you're not getting a drum set until I see that you're serious. And it took about a year of me practicing on a practice pad, and she saw that I was pretty obsessed with music. And I had a very good teacher, this guy, Ronnie, local guy from Jerusalem, and we hardly did any technique. But he used to make me play with music, and it really turned me on he really made me passionate about it. So maybe I didn't have a good base of rudiments or technique, but he made me love it so much that I think for that I really thank him. He was a great teacher. And then my mom got remarried. My parents got divorced, so my mom got remarried with this guy who's a music lover, a wonderful guy. He's my stepdad. And he introduced me to jazz pretty much. He had lots of great records. I remember him coming back home with a cassette of Don Cherry, Art Deco. A few great records he has, mostly cassettes and vinyls. And I started falling in love with jazz and music from the world, basically, from all over the world. And yeah, so basically I started studying with a guy in a town that's pretty close to Jerusalem who is an American guy, this guy named Jerry Garbal. And he introduced me to the history of jazz. He was actually very methodical, you say? Methodical, right?
Yes.
Which was very helpful. He started with Afro-Cuban music and West African music and Latin music and the blues, many origins of American jazz. And then he moved on to give me recordings from New Orleans and from the early jazz. And then he moved on to swing and moved on to bebop and so on and so on. So he was very methodical, and it made me have an understanding of how it works chronologically. Because growing up in Israel, and this is before internet, before YouTube, we weren't really exposed to the real, how it really works, or the real great musicians. So he gave me a good idea about the history of it.
Sure.
And then I was lucky enough to grow up. I'm a little younger than a few of my peers / teachers. The great bass player that you probably know of, Avishai Cohen, was a few years older than me, and I was really influenced by his music, and I was fortunate enough to work with him right when I graduated high school. I was fortunate enough to play with Omer Avital, another great bass player, band leader. Amos Hoffman was a great guitar player and oud player. And then the late Arnie Lawrence, who was a great musician, a great alto player, and also he established the jazz department at the New School. I think it was Manus back then in New York City.
Sure.
But he put that together. He was a visionary, kind of a very sweet, interesting guy, and a great musician. And I don't remember what year, but he moved to Jerusalem. And he had a vision to bring jazz to Israel and to use it as a tool for peace, for peacemaking, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And he made a lot of things happen. He established a school, and he brought a lot of great jazz musicians from New York. He brought Max Roach, great late Max Roach. And he took us, the Israeli kids from Jerusalem, to play in Palestine, in Bethlehem, in Ramallah. And he put Palestinian musicians and Israeli musicians together to play, which is so important and so beautiful, and nobody really does it that I know of. So he was a great guy. So I was fortunate to study with him. I think my capacity, I didn't have the capacity to really understand a lot of what he told me because I was too young, I think, mentally at least. But now I even appreciate it more, what he did and his message. He was a beautiful human. Well, and that's Jerusalem.
Well, I mean, that's just brilliant to, because, I mean, obviously and I'm not trying to make light of the situation at all, but when you think of jazz music, you don't think of Israel as a hotbed for jazz musicians, right? I mean, it's, but I think it's brilliant to bring that message of peace to a region that has had, lots of trouble over the years, needless to say, and to try to use music as a tool of peace. I think that's just absolutely brilliant. Now, when you were learning the history of jazz and you were starting as a young player, you said your teacher kind of took you through it chronologically. Who were some of the really big influences that stuck out to you?
Well, I'll start with going not chronologically, because the first tape, he made me like a mixtape.
Okay.
And on that mixtape, there was some Count Basie, and there was Duke Ellington, and there was earlier stuff. There was Hot 7, Hot 5, I think, and there was a recording. I don't remember the name of the record or who was the bandleader, but Roy Haynes was on it.
Okay.
And that rocked my world.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I fell in love, really. Roy was, that sound and the phrasing was something so unique to me. That really made me fall in love with the stuff. But then afterwards, of course, like people like, of course, Papa Joe Jones, Sid Catlett before that, like everybody. Of course, Max Roach, of course, Kenny Clark, of course, Elvin Jones, Roy, all of them, Jimmy Cobb, Philly Joe Jones. It's endless. I really fell in love with all of them. I have to say, they all have such different, unique sounds. It was so cool to see the development. It was like, wow, this came out of that came out of that. You hear Jimmy Cobb, and like, is that coming from Philly? But not really. It's his own thing. I really dug it. It was really cool. And also he was cool. It wasn't only jazz. And I should tell you, like, I'm not a jazz drummer per se. I don't play only straight ahead jazz. But I love stretching out, and I do many other things. And I always loved listening to other things.
Sure. Absolutely.
So I love many drummers who play many different styles of music. Yeah,
don't we all? I mean,
it's a shame. It's a shame if you don't, right? I mean, what a waste to close your mind, to limit your mind to one style. Especially jazz these days, it's so open. There's so many different styles under the umbrella of what they call jazz. It's really great. I welcome it all.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so you had all these great influences. Everybody you just named are, it's kind of the Mount Rushmore of jazz drummers, really. It's who we all try to emulate and study, for sure. When did you decide to make the move to the States? And was that out of necessity, or was it, I guess what I'm getting at is, did you decide to come here because it is such a musical hotbed?
Yeah, 100%. That was the reason. I somehow, and this is, again, I don't have a romantic story about one point that I decided, but somehow I was tuned in to, like, I knew the goal was to get to New York. I also visited a couple of times. I visited with my stepdad, who was here for a year on a job, whatever he did. I came to visit, and I was here for a couple of weeks. This is back in 94, 93, something like that, a long time ago. And I got to see some friends play, and I got to see, like, one of the old versions of Birdland. I think it was Uptown back then.
Okay.
And I got to see a few spots, and of course it turned me on more into the music. And then I got to come here again when I was 17. And on that visit, I already really visited all the clubs, and I sat in. I met a few musicians. I sat in a few clubs, and then I was like, okay, I'm coming back to New York. And then I was able to do that when I was 21. I came here for 1 year, sort of feeling it out. Then went back to Israel for a few months, and came back here to live here. That was 2001.
Okay.
No, 2000. I'm sorry, the end of 2000.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I started school. I went to the New School University, and I did the whole 4 years while gigging and learning in the clubs.
Sure. Well, and I think you have to have both, right? I mean, I've had all sorts of guests on this show that, went to Berkeley, went to, Kodak, went, University of North Texas, University of Miami, all these great schools. But all of those great drummers, while they were in school, were also out there, paying their dues, so to speak. And you got really busy really fast after you got here. You've played with just kind of a who's who list of musicians. That had to feel just incredible to you.
Well, it's what I actually think I've been here for a second. It wasn't that quick for me. It's very random. I think it's random and not random. I actually think that some people come here and they immediately play with like the most famous musicians and this or that, or like it takes a year. For me, it actually, yes, I did play with some famous musicians or people that I knew through other people. But I think I am kind of a late bloomer in terms of I played with many, many different people, but throughout the course of a kind of a long time. Yeah. So yes, I've done a lot of things, but it didn't happen immediately. I was very, very, very lucky to, very fast, play with Harry Whitaker.
Right.
Harry was a great, great, great pianist, great musician. He passed away, unfortunately, about 10 years ago. And I was extremely lucky because I came here and I started working in a restaurant as a busboy. After school, I would go there, and on nights that I didn't have gigs, I would bus tables also to have some more money. And through that, I got the gig in that restaurant with him because he used to play there every night, and I used to sit in. The management liked me, he liked me, and somehow we hooked up. So in that sense, I was extremely lucky because through him, I met so many great musicians that are really like New York, Joe Magnarelli and Richie Vitale, and so many other musicians. Pat O'Leary, Saul Rubin, Marion Collins. And yes, I gigged with all of them too through that. So in a way, yes, I guess I was extremely lucky. But I also feel like it took me, I've definitely had a long road. Slow, surely, but slowly but surely. I don't know. I'm not sure how to say it.
Yeah, sure.
Going up slowly, and I kind of feel like that's more my style. Like building it slow, maturing, growing, expanding my horizon. I have to say, I really love New York, and where I am in New York, musically and in general, more and more every year. I'm happy to say.
Well, I mean,
it was definitely a road.
Yeah. And look, and we're going to talk about the record because, not only are you doing all these incredible gigs, but, the New York family, that record came out, I don't want to, 5 months ago, something like that. It was late 2018.
December.
Okay.
December. So 3 months ago.
3 months ago. Okay.
Yeah, it's a baby.
Well, it is quite the baby. Let me just tell you that right now. It's, you're welcome. I've been listening to it, for the past several days, prepping for our interview. And I'm really taken by how, it does contain a little bit of everything. And I think I read a quote that you gave about the record that, you tried to put a little bit of everything that you've been doing on the album, and, mission accomplished, but not to the point where it's, not cohesive. It's really good. And it's sonically, it's very, very pleasing. So, and you've got a list of A players, on the record. Tell us a little bit about, putting that group together and how you came up with the New York family, because I think that's a great story.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for liking it and for recommending it. I do appreciate it and don't take it for granted. I would hope that what pleases my ear and my taste also speaks to others. So thank you.
You're welcome.
This was a very sort of organic process, I have to say, because I have been playing with many different musicians, and as most sidemen, I guess, in New York or in the world and New York work, I guess you get to a certain place where, yes, you play with dozens of different people, but you have your regular sort of family. People you will call for your gigs because you love playing with them the most and you love hanging with them the most. They'll call you for some of their gig projects. So it's like, especially if you're a sideman and you don't play only one style of music. I play with some bands who play more Latin music and some bands who play more Middle Eastern music. So I do get to play with a large variety of different styles of bands, but it narrows down after a few years, I think, or a decade or two, to a family, to people you really trust around you. And for me, it was like, by the time I decided to record this record and after I had enough music, I noticed that I pretty much knew who I wanted to play on this record, which is I'm really glad I got to that point. It wasn't like that in the first record, which of course it was also musicians that I loved and some, but on this one, I had a vision ahead of time who I'm getting. So the first obvious choice was Itai Chris, who is an amazing flautist and a great composer.
Yeah. And
I had the pleasure of playing in his band called Tel Havana, which is a band that plays a mixture of Middle Eastern, that's the Tel part from Tel Aviv, and Havana is the Cuban part of the music. I love playing in his band, and I also played. Itai and I have been playing together probably since I'm 18 years old, 17 years old. He's from Tel Aviv, I'm from Jerusalem, and we used to travel to play with each other. And we shared an apartment here in New York, and we've toured the world together with a number of different groups, including our groups. And we're very good friends. So Itai was a very obvious choice for me. And I'm actually featuring a song by him on the record that's called 2 Summers, which I love.
Yes.
And through Itai's connection, I got Marcos Lopez on percussion. Marcos is a young percussionist, amazing musician. And I met him through Itai's band, through Tel Havana. And I don't know, we've been playing for 3-4 years together. And we have a great connection musically. We're friends. He's a great timbale player, great conga player, all around wonderful musician, can sing, super easy to hang out with. We have a wonderful connection. Boom, that was my choice on percussion. Then we have Adam Birnbaum on piano.
Yeah.
Adam and I are good friends through music. We met a while ago through our mutual friend Eli the Jibri. They used to be in Al Foster's band together. Since then, Eli moved back to Israel, and he's doing amazing over there. And Adam is still in Al's band, and in many, many other things, including the Village Vanguard Orchestra and a number of different great bands. And I've been fortunate enough to have him in my trio for the past 5-6 years. And he calls me to play with his trio sometimes. We did the Montreal Jazz Fest together. And we have a great connection. We love hanging. We love playing. He's one of those people who can read anything, can play any style. He always swings. He's always inside. They call it. He always speaks the language. He knows bebop. He knows jazz. But he stretches out. I don't need to be careful with him. I don't need to play phrases that are only bebop. And we play music. We play music and we keep our ears open. And I love playing with him.
Sure.
Through Adam's connection, I met Luke Selick, who's a great bass player, and he's the bass player of the record. And Luke and I have known each other in the city from the scene, like Smalls and Smoke. And we're always friendly, but we didn't play that much together. But then Adam hired us for a gig in Montreal. So we got to know each other better, and we felt really comfortable playing together. And we started doing local gigs in New York together. And he became our obvious choice. He's super supportive. Luke is a real bass player. It's funny because he's playing of a real bass player. He's super supportive, keeps his ears open, doesn't play what's not necessary, but also mentally he's like that. You feel comfortable with him at a gig, on the bandstand, in the studio. He's fun to be around. He makes you feel safe. So he was another obvious choice. And then who do we get to? To Zafir. Zafir is a friend of mine, also from New York, although we are from the same city. From different sides. Zafir is Palestinian from East Jerusalem, and I'm from West Jerusalem. So unfortunately, when we're back there, we can't really go visit each other that much because of the sad and stupid reality.
Yeah.
But here, New York being the place that it is, we can hang together, we can play music, and we're a very good friend. Zafir is an amazing musician. He actually plays percussion and violin and qanun and oud. Probably even more things. Oh, it's even ney. I think he plays a flute, Arabic flute. But on my record, he plays oud. I'm featuring him on a couple of tunes. One of them is Horace Silver's Peace, and one of them is mine called Gits. He has a beautiful intro there. And Zafir is a special musician. He's real. He's just plays super beautifully, and he's a super sweet cat. So another obvious choice right there. Last but not least, we have Reinaldo Batista, who I know also through Itai. This was kind of a fluke. We were on the road, and our percussionist couldn't come. This is a Tel Havana gig, Itai's gig. And Reinaldo was playing in a festival in the same city with someone else. So Itai got him to play percussion with us and sing with us. And also we clicked. He's a wonderful percussionist and a wonderful singer. And on the one vocal tune on my record, he was the obvious choice. And as I had foreseen, it was really easy and fun to work with him. This whole record, this could have been a very difficult production because we had a few setups and breakdowns to do in one day of recording.
This was done in one day?
This was done in 8 hours.
Oh, my God.
8 hours. I kid you not.
Oh,
I have to say,
man.
I was very prepared. I made food the day before. I went to the studio and I put it there. I set up the drums the day before. But also, it was, I think because it's a family and because we all know each other that well, we knew the music, we rehearsed. We had a gig at Smalls that same week playing the music. But I really do think that it's the connection between the people and the fact that we know each other so well musically and mentally and friendship-wise. It was very, very easy. Very easy. It was probably the easiest recording session I ever did with anyone. And this was my record, so I had the potential to be a lot more stressed out. But it was, I'm really happy to say it was a really fun, easy experience. We did, everything was like first, second, or third take. Usually first or second.
Yeah, that makes life a whole lot easier, no doubt about it. And
this is including, we did have to overdub some stuff. Like I overdub more percussion, that I play percussion. We overdub me singing, and we had to set up and break down the oud, set up and break down the percussion. It was really, it was fantastic. A good experience.
Well, and it sounds like it. You know, I mean, I think those things, the vibe in the studio will certainly translate to the track or the record. You know, I mean, if everybody's stressed out and not getting along, I think
that's not good.
It's not good.
I hear you there.
And you can usually hear that in the finished product. And, this is just great. Now, I'm going to give a plug real quick to Itai because, obviously I'm not super familiar with your music. So I did some research prior to our interview. And, you mentioned earlier, pre-internet, pre-YouTube, but it's pretty awesome. You can go to YouTube and just type in Dan Aran. And, one of the things that I found, and it's incredible, it is you and Itai. He is playing flute and you are playing a snare drum with brushes. And it is some of the most incredible brushwork, Dan. It is.
Oh, man. Thank you so much.
It's incredible. I'm sitting here. I'm like, okay, here's a guy with a flute and a guy with, a snare with brushes. I wasn't expecting what I heard. It was amazing.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. Where did you learn to play brushes like that? I mean, I sit down with a pair of brushes and nobody wants to hear it.
Well, man, brushes. It's a whole art form, but first of all, from my first real brush technique or a couple of exercises that I did, I learned from a guy who's a wonderful drummer, wonderful teacher, and one of the people who got me started, this guy called Shai Zellman, who's a wonderful musician. He lives in Tel Aviv, and he's one of my musical fathers, for sure, who plays really, really good brushes. And he showed me a few exercises. Then I would have to say that, of course, watching some videos that were available on VHS, I watched Fernell play brushes. I saw some other people. But then probably the most influenced I was would be by Ed Titkin.
Oh yeah, of course.
Listening to the trio, to Oscar Peterson trio, and in specific, there's one record. I don't remember the name of the record, but it's all Cole Porter. It's basically Oscar Peterson trio plays Cole Porter. Maybe Love for Sale. Man, his brushes there. It's 101 brushes. It's not only the way he plays the brushes, but also the phrasing of how he controls the band. What he does before he moves from brushes to sticks. What he does when he comes back from sticks to brushes, how he moves from, how he reacts from when Ray Brown goes from 2 to 4 and vice versa. It's just really so incredibly simple and amazingly beautiful that was a huge influence on me. Huge influence on me. And then more recent, or not recent because I checked it out like 15 years ago, but definitely Carl Allen, man. Like Carl Allen's brushing, you can hear it in records, on records with Benny Green. Oh my God, such great brushing. A lot of guys have amazing brushes, but something about Carl's brushing is so precise, yet super relaxed and loose. I love it. I love his brush playing. And then part of why I'm comfortable with playing a snare drum only, or snare drum and hi-hat, or just snare drum, is the gig I did at a place called Arturo's with Harry Whitaker. I used to play there 3 times a week for about 10 or 12 years, playing just a snare drum. I mean, I had a hi-hat and cymbal too, but sticks were not allowed there.
Okay.
Because we needed to play quietly. So basically, I would play about 3 nights a week, 5 sets of playing brushes. So it's probably that, I would say. It's probably that. And also, I don't know, sometimes for me, it's funny because people think it's harder. For me, sometimes I feel like it's more simple. It's less drums to deal with. It's less coordination to deal with. It's one drum, yes, but there are so many different colors and sounds in that drum. It sometimes makes me focus even more. You know what I mean? It's when you have only one element and you have to mess with that, as opposed to a full drum set. Check out Leon Parker. You know, he plays with no hi-hat, usually only one cymbal. Sounds so amazing, and like he gets so many colors out of one cymbal or only out of one snare drum. I never miss anything in his playing. He always sounds incredible. He doesn't play a lot of drums or a lot of cymbals. Never plays with a hi-hat, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't know. So playing for so many years in that snare drum really helped me, I think.
Well, it's an art form in and of itself. And, I'm telling my listeners right now, you've got to check out Dan's brushwork in some of these YouTube videos, because it's just, it is a master class. It's incredible stuff. So kudos to you, Dan.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're very welcome. Now that the record is out, obviously, you want everybody on earth to buy a copy, and everybody should do so. I'm saying that. You guys are doing some shows, and I know that you're also playing some shows as a trio and in different configurations with some of the same players. But are there any plans on taking New York Family on the road for a proper tour?
Well, yes, there is, actually. Yes, there is. And actually, this is going to be a combined thing with Itai. We're going to combine forces. We're going to join forces, as we did a few times in the past before. And we're embarking on a Europe/Israel tour late October until mid-November. Or actually mid-October. We have a couple of dates already in Greece in mid-October. And it's going to end probably in Israel or close to Israel.
Okay.
Mid-November, and we're planning France, we're planning Italy, we're planning Switzerland. Not everything is booked yet, so I don't want to announce dates.
Sure.
But it will start on October 14th in Athens, Greece.
Okay.
So yes.
Well, that begs.
We have a show. The band has a show in New York in May, a big show. It's a small jazz club.
Yeah, I saw that on the website. Now, it begs the question, though. You guys are touring Europe, it sounds like, in Israel. What about the States? And the reason I ask it this way, obviously there's not a lot of huge jazz tours that happen in the United States anymore. There are a few artists that do, certainly, but it's not... Yeah. It's not as common as it once was. So is there not the demand for you guys to tour in the States as much as Europe? Because, obviously Europeans just love jazz.
Well, I tell you what it is. First of all, I can't really speak as an authority on the subject because 99% of the tours I'm a part of, I'm not the band leader.
Sure.
So I'm not the one dealing with booking the stuff that's number one. Number two, the phenomena of jazz groups touring for a few months in the United States is pretty much gone. That doesn't really happen anymore. So you'll fly for a couple of days here, 2 weeks there, a festival here. But the phenomena of touring, people used to tour year round.
Right.
So that doesn't really happen anymore because you don't have weeks in clubs anymore. Unless you're one of the biggest names, you don't do a week or two in one club and then go to the next. And then you'll do a night here, 2 nights there, maybe a big festival there. But the nature of how it works doesn't really allow you to stay on the road that long,
Yeah.
So, and to your question, as far as my band is concerned, I would like to, yes. I'm contacting festivals. There's some talks. But I think because I'm a late bloomer in terms of band leading, people know me as a sideman, or maybe don't even know me. They know me as a part of it, someone like a great band or whatnot, and who was the drummer. But to know my group, I think I'm starting a process now. I'm learning, actually, as I go, even though I'm not a young kid. But I'm learning now how it works. And I see that it's a process. You put the record out, you do promotion, you maybe do a few showcases, you do a little tour that you might not necessarily make any money in, or maybe even lose, and it's a process. And then the next one maybe will be bigger. Then that festival will hear about you. It's networking. It's a lot. And I'm definitely learning as I go. And I think the fact that really 99% of the touring I did, and even the playing I did in New York, is as a sideman with different people. I never really messed with that. I never really dealt with that part, that business side. Believe me, I'm so much more on my computer every day than I ever did. The time I spend, I don't know how much I like it, but I see that it's part of it. And I see now, I'm so much more aware now that I see like a Facebook post, or that I see someone hustling and sending me the emails that they've been sending me for the past 10 years. And I'm like, why are they sending? I'm getting it only now. I was very naive about that for many years, and I don't regret it. I spend time doing other things, but I'm learning as I go, and it's growing.
Yeah. Well, one of the themes that we talk about on the Drum Shuffle here, we really love to hear from drummers who have spent a lot of their career as a sideman, taking charge, taking control. And, that's one of the things that I wanted to do with this show, was to tell other drummers, look, you don't just have to go from sideman gig to sideman gig. If you want to put in the time and the work, you can take control of your career and be a band leader. It's just, I think it's far more common in jazz than it is in rock. I grew up in the rock and roll world. I can't think of a single rock band that was led by a drummer, right off the top of my head. So, we find it really interesting when someone like you says, wow, it's a lot of work and I'm learning as I go. That's such great knowledge to share here, Dan. You're welcome. So now, when you're not super busy, playing gigs with all the different projects that you're involved in, are you doing, studio work? Are you teaching lessons? Are you doing anything outside of your groups?
What I'm doing sideman work also sometimes that is not really, that is not online, or not as flashy, or some things that I do. This is online. There's something that I do that I really love. I'm a part of. I work with the Harlem Repertory Theater, which is a beautiful theater in East Harlem, and there's a production of Oz, The Wizard of Oz, there. And it's produced by the Yip Harburg Foundation. Yip Harburg was the lyricist to all those beautiful songs from that show, including Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Okay.
And he's the lyricist to a lot of songs you probably know, like Old Devil Moon, Brother Could You Spare a Dime, many beautiful songs from the Great American Songbook and from shows. And I was fortunate enough to know his son and his wife, Dina Harburg. And I've been working for them as the musical director for the Oz show in Harlem, which keeps me busy at times. Now we're in the middle of a run, so we have a show every 2 weeks. And that I'm involved with, because of some copyright issues, I was involved with actually composing a few different parts that we couldn't use. So I actually composed the witch theme and a few other things.
That's killer. That's awesome.
And and it's really fun. It's a jazz production. I have great musicians playing with me, a bass player called Yoshiwaki, Japanese, who lived here for the past 20 years, and another Japanese pianist called Martha Kato, who's a wonderful composer and pianist. And I've been lucky enough to do that. Yeah, we came up with really hip jazz arrangements and not really jazz, just arrangements, more contemporary arrangements to the songs. And it's been a really wonderful experience. They're a great theater group with very sweet people and very talented people. So that's something that keeps me busy. And then I also sometimes play Middle Eastern percussion in Jewish services, actually, in synagogues. That's extra bread every month and kind of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
And I teach sometimes through the new school and off-campus faculty if somebody wants to study with me. And I teach in my studio in Brooklyn. And yeah, try to stay busy.
Well, and the reason I specifically ask about lessons, we have listeners all over the world, and, we always try to say, look, if you can, your normal drum instructor, that's great. I've had drummers on this show that you would not think were still taking lessons, but they are. We all are, and
I take lessons.
Of course. I mean, we all do. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. They have one drum instructor. If you ever have the opportunity to, whether you live in the New York area or not, but if you have the opportunity to do an hour with Dan, you should do it. I mean, right?
Please. I really love teaching. I love teaching, and I do feel like I have things to share, experience and techniques. I'm always down. If someone is in town, that happens. Some people come to town even if they're visiting from Europe, from other places in the States, and they'll see me playing at Smalls or elsewhere. They ask if I teach. Yeah, then we meet in my studio or even before a gig at Smalls or whatnot, and we do an hour. And also I do Skype lessons.
Okay, good. So, and people can find you through your website, I'm assuming, on
Absolutely.
all that stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, these
days it's so easy. Like website, Instagram, Facebook, it's all out there.
Yeah, for sure. And
all out there.
The web address, and of course we'll have a link up on the drumshuffle.com, but it's danaran.net. So, for anybody that's looking to maybe do some studying with Dan, I strongly recommend it. Now, Dan, tell us where everybody can go out and grab the record, Dan Aran's New York Family.
Okay, so the record is sold online, and you can first of all download through CD Baby, and there is a site called hearnow.com, which has all the connecting dots to where to get it. The Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Deezer, CD Baby, it's all in here. The website is called hearnow.com. So it's Dan Aran, that's DANARAN hearnow.com. HEARNOW.com. danaran.hearnow.com. And then if you it's enough to Google my name or to Google Dan Aran New York Family. There will be links. iTunes, Apple Music, CD Baby, Spotify. It's all there.
Yeah, for sure. And, Dan wouldn't say this, but I will say this as somebody that tries to sell my own music. Buy it at cdbaby.com. Dan gets more money that way.
True that. True.
We all love Spotify because it's so easy, but I was looking at some statistics and, I think a single stream on Spotify these days pays like 0.2 of 1 penny now. So
true. It's pretty pathetic.
It really is. But
I'm not, I won't. If you listen to my music on Spotify or Apple Music, I'm not going to be angry. As long as it gets to you, I'll be happy.
That's exactly right. That's why we put it out there because.
But buy it on CD Baby.
That's right. But if you're gonna buy it on CD Baby. That's the place to do it. So,
right. No, but I'm really happy. I try to. It's also that people talk about the changes in New York, and it's too expensive to live here, and music is shifting from Midtown, and now it's in Brooklyn. Man, life is ever changing. The world is ever changing. You can't be too dark. And if this is how it works, I'll go with the flow.
Absolutely.
People want to download the stuff for cheap. Okay, I'll sell CDs on the gig.
That's right.
I mean, you can't spend your time, being bitter about stuff like that.
No, you can't. And I think the most gratifying thing in the world, and you said it right there, I'll sell the CDs at the gig. There's nothing better than somebody purchasing the physical product from your hand at a gig because you get to make a friend in that process.
Absolutely. That has happened many times in many countries.
I mean,
people stay in touch. People come to a gig a year later somewhere elsewhere, and we met in New York after the gig, blah blah blah. So it's that's music is great that way.
Yes, it is, for sure. Now, Dan, one of our traditions here on the Drum Shuffle, we always ask our guests, as we try to wrap up, we always ask our guests for a good piece of advice. What advice would you share with other drummers and musicians?
Well, there's so many, but I would say, to the more beginner ones, I would say be realistic about practicing. Be realistic. Find yourself a program that works for you. We are all very, very different. I have friends who practice for 8 hours a day. I have friends who practice 3 times a week. I find that I do around an hour and a half a day. Sometimes I'm on the road, I can't. Sometimes I have other things I can't. Sometimes I have music to learn, so I do a lot more. But being realistic and finding the right balance between kicking your own behind, but also not being too harsh. So if you're not accustomed to practicing a lot and you want to get good real fast, don't say, I'm going to practice 3 hours today and tomorrow, because you're not going to do anything with that. Be realistic. Think about your attention span, how much you can do. Do that for a month, even if it's half an hour a day. It's about the continuous. It's about doing it every day. The repetitive motion, the muscle memory, the understanding it. So even half an hour a day, if it's every day, it's so much better than having non-realistic plans. You know what I'm saying about practicing?
Absolutely.
And then for someone who's already playing, another advice I would have is have also the right combination of being confident enough in a musical situation. Like when you know you're going to play a certain style of music or a certain vocabulary, really, really know it. Really, really know it. It's the great John Riley told me in a lesson. He was like he asked me, who do you feel like playing with? And he told me about himself, like he said, I wanted to play with Chick Corea, or I forget who he said. And then he thought to himself, if Chick calls me today, can I do the gig? You know what I mean? And he throws his music at me. Can I actually do it? And it made him realize, okay, if he wants a gig, he has to really, really, really know the music. And specifically, that's any musician, but specifically as a drummer, I feel like you have to know the music better than anyone, because you have to set up hits, set up different sections, take everybody with you. You have so much power as a drummer. You have so much dynamic power, so much control. So you better use it in the right way. So knowing the music amazingly, but also not enforcing, not being too aggressive with like, I know where it is, blah, blah, blah. Being also enough open and listening and finding the dynamics between really knowing what you're doing. And sometimes, by the way, knowing what you're doing and knowing the music better than anyone will make you more relaxed and less wanting to show people how much you know. Because you're not going to have that problem of trying to prove yourself. You know what's up, and you're letting things happen, you know? And if you want to say something, you say it musically, with grace, with a smile. So it's very, I think that would be an advice that I would have, if that was clear in any way.
It was crystal clear, and it was great advice, Dan. Again, thank you so much for coming on the Drum Shuffle. We really do appreciate your time. It goes without saying, please keep us up to speed with everything going on with all your different projects. You're welcome here anytime. I just had a blast talking with you. Folks, again, it's danaran.net. New York Family is the record. Go get it. You will not regret it. Dan, thank you, sir.
I really appreciate you and your time and the beautiful show. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap up episode 61 of the Drum Shuffle. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really, really do appreciate it. We simply cannot produce this show without everybody tuning in every week. As I do each week, I'm going to ask you to hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're using to listen in. It certainly helps us out, and it will ensure that you don't miss any of the guests that we have coming up over the next few weeks that you are not going to want to miss. Next week, I am going to be joined by my pal, Kevin Charney. Kevin is currently out on the road with Jesse Dayton, just doing tons of good work. And he is a gearhead like me, so I'm sure we will geek out on all things drum gear, as well as talk about his career and his playing. Just a super dude. Love hanging out with Kevin, so you're not going to want to miss that episode. We love hearing from you throughout the week. Keep your emails coming to us. The Drum Shuffle Podcast at gmail.com is our email address. We do answer every single one. Our web address is thedrumshuffle.com, and you can find more information on me over at jamieeads.com. While you're there, click on those social media links. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We do try to have social media output each week, so you can follow us there as well. So until next time, may your heads stay strong and your sticks never break. Cheers, everybody.